way better just than I am. That's not fair.
Not on purpose, just
So thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. I know we don't have a bunch of time, but thank you for agreeing to doing this for the people in the audience and the people who are going to be listening and hopefully seeing this afterwards. I've known Dan for at least 2 years, and we're now in Funding Stories episode 9. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring some of the awesome founders we work with, tell their stories on the amazing companies they built, and also a little bit talk about what it's like working with us and hopefully get a good story out of it. It's hosted by Eagle Point Funding. We're a grant consulting company, and we help deep tech startups raise capital and non-dilutive funding. What I'm excited is in this episode, I'm having Dan. He's the founder of ChemCubed. And correct me if I'm misdescribing what you folks do, but ChemCubed is a nanocomposite R&D and manufacturing company with special capabilities in electronics, aerospace, optical, and advanced manufacturing. You guys focus on end-use applications for physical, mechanical, and conductive and insulative properties for the final output requirements of UV curable and non-V curable nanocomposite liquids and suitable for SLA, syringe extrusion, and piezo inject technology printers. Thanks, Dan, for coming. I really appreciate it.
thank you for having me.
So let's kind of get right to it. On your LinkedIn and the people who will check you out later, you've worked for 20 plus years at the Hillard Corporation.
Correct.
How was it like, and what made you move and kind of open your own business?
It was quite easy. The particular market that Hillard serviced was in the graphics area. So we're helping run that company, and you can see that market. It was either though still expanding, becoming very older, and I didn't think that it wasn't as innovative. It became obvious within additive manufacturing that there was a need for new materials and a need for it was a growing market still in its infancy, just like the graphics market was 20-30 years ago. So it seemed like a natural progression to start to go into that. I had the story is that I had a couple of partners who sort of wanted to invest and be part of the new company. So we created ChemCubed nearly 9 to almost 10 years ago, to specifically to do additive manufacturing and new materials for additive manufacturing. So that's how we started.
Like, how long did it take you to kind of get to the final decision you want to open your own business?
Well, I think I toyed with it. I have to say that I'm generally risk adverse. I'm not a I'm not a company or person that wants to open up a company, sell it, open it up a company, and I wanted to build something. So and this was a good opportunity. So it took a couple of years from inception to for the idea to take hold, but at some point just decided let's pull the trigger and start a new company.
So with 10 years of perspective and owning and managing a business, what do you think is kind of the best thing that you did and the worst, if you can talk about it?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say the worst. Obviously, made a lot of decisions that I probably wouldn't make again in the same manner. And probably when you're starting a company, you don't really have the target. You have a very general concept that you wanted to do materials. Finding the right targets was difficult. I think I've enthusiastically made decisions to follow some wrong choices there in terms of what to spend our time and effort on. But I think by the same token, I've made a lot of great decisions. I think starting the company itself was a great decision. It allowed me to grow quite a bit, and you're in a new area that's really exciting, dealing with a different type of Fortune 500 companies than I've dealt with in the past. And being innovative just seems like a really good, solid decision. You're in a new growing space. Like I said, I'm adverse to large risks, but I thought this was a good one. It just seemed like the right thing to do.
So what do you think is the biggest change from where you are now to like where you were to managing your own business and managing a small company?
Actually, the biggest change is actually having being part of the vision of where the company is headed, and having the ability and the decision-making power to do that.
Okay.
And obviously also the responsibility comes onto your own shoulders as well. But being able to do that all on my own, making those decisions, and having the vision for the company is just the biggest benefit to it, and the biggest difference, rather than just trying to follow suit in what you are, what you were doing. Like I said, we're in a new market area. We're trying to change the way the world does things. So, you get to be a part of that.
So I think that's a good transition to kind of go deeper in kind of in your own words. What do you do? Who do you service? What do you think the biggest value that you provide?
Well, yeah, we mentioned that we're looking at additive manufacturing, making materials in additive manufacturing. That kind of over the last 10 years, we've developed two areas of the company. One for specific materials for what we call our ChemCubed division, which is specific materials for specific applications, whether it be biotech or others. And then we've developed materials for the electronics industry, and printing, digital printing, electronics, circuitry, wearables, and IoT devices, and so forth. But we were based on just making those materials, but it sort of took a life of its own. We made some exceptionally good materials, but we needed a printer platform and so forth to sell these materials. And so we collaborated with some printer companies and things, and we launched our own technology and our own systems, and that sort of grew to get to the point of what your question is that we ended up in aerospace, in automotive, in very different marketplaces than graphics and advertising, which was where we were before. We're actually doing functional items. What the biggest impact, I think, that doing the additive manufacturing, especially in electronics, is the sustainability. You're building rather than taking copper etched boards and or etching the copper off the boards. You're contaminating water. You have to scrub the water. So energy efficiency, sustainability, speed of that, because less hands-on lamination. So again, we're trying to change the way people are looking at circuitry, and looking at it in a additive 3D sense, rather than just layer by layer laminating circuitry. So it's really exciting, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
So where do you see yourself taking ChemCubed 5-10 years in the future?
We've been building organically this whole time. We've been building off our own revenues. And what I'd like to do is, like, we're trying to do a sustainable system and change the way the technology works. I'd like to have the company sustainable. I'm trying to build a company that can stand on its own legs, and have a high a structure, so it's not revolving around one or two people. That it is truly what we would say a real company at that point.
Okay. Are there any other markets that you see yourself expanding? Is there any like places for horizontal integration, vertical integration that you see ChemCubed, or it's growth in all directions?
I think it's growth in all directions because it's such a new idea. Every time I turn around, there's another. When you're dealing with electronics, electronics is everything from standard manufacturing of appliances to automotive. Like I said, aerospace. Um, we're working with NASA. We've got all sorts of yeah, uh, you know, markets that I think we're capable of venturing into. And I think we're going to be going into those as they develop and as they see this technology utilized for them in the market.
So you mentioned that you're kind of growing based on revenue and sales. Can I ask why not take the standard route, take VC funding, and then use other buzzwords and scale and grid, like all those?
Well, I mean, we originally were funded. Like I said, I had partners, and so we were self-funded with the partners. Eventually, I've taken over the company completely, so those partners are no longer involved. But we've used our own revenue streams and wanted to grow organically. I didn't see at this point any reason to bring in VC funding. I didn't want to dilute um, I didn't want to dilute the company, and I didn't want to dilute the vision for the company. Being able to go in the direction that the company wants to go. And so I didn't see the additive benefit. Maybe with the right partners there would be, with the marketing and sales areas. But I still think the technology is still so new, and we're still going into those other new markets. There's really not a benefit to bring in other. Funding. Obviously, it's always would be nice to have a whole lot of money to play with, but that's not that's not the goal at the moment, and I don't think it'll build a sustainable company that way. Growing it organically probably seems to be a little more sustainable.
So talking about funding, obviously we're talking because we've been working together about non-dilutive and R&D funding. What made you decide, regardless of working with us, which has been a huge success and one of the best decisions ever made, of course, but what got you to turn into like R&D grants and non-dilutive funding? Like,
as I said, when I took over the company by itself, and some of it had to do with COVID at the time, that my partners weren't really vested into keeping the company going and trying to support the company through COVID area. So that had to just come onto my shoulders to keep the company going. The R&D areas, not to bring in VC capital, and the truth is, capital investments, they're not really interested in R&D. They're interested more in marketing and how do we get the biggest bang for our buck right away. May not be true completely across the board, but that was my feeling about it. I started looking at SBIRs. So I started writing an SBIR prior to even meeting you. We started writing our first SBIR. I got it was an NSF one, and actually wrote the first little prologue for it, and got invited to write a complete grant. And it just so happens that we connected at that point. So I saw your did a little webinar with you and said, this could be extremely helpful for us.
What do you see as non-dilutive funding? Like, what portion of it is it taken from the company's attention? Is it 100%? Is it like 5%? Like, what big of a role is it taking? Is it like a side dish? Is it a main course? Is it,
It's become significant, obviously, because we're at a point where we got some phase 2 under our belt. So that of course is yes, a big win. So it was a slow go, right? So this has been 2 years, and sticking with it was important. consistently putting in the effort to get those grants in there and going after the proposals until you've found a good match for your technology. And we, so that's all been great. So in terms of R&D, it's been maybe 50% of our R&D funding that we're doing. The rest of it is we're still doing it off our own and our own revenue.
Wow.
So it's been a pretty good, it's been a pretty big hit. It's been pretty good right now, so, or at least this is the way we're seeing it for the next year or so with the funding that we've got coming in.
So can you talk about agencies that you won? Would you feel comfortable saying that?
Yeah, no, I don't see why not. We've won some phase ones with the Air Force. We've gotten a lot of phase two. That was, I forgot the wording for it, selected or selectable but not funded, which means we've got good proposals in. It just wasn't on their dish yet. But through that concept, we've gotten a lot of contract, a lot of networking, and a lot of things within the Air Force. So that so that was a good thing. So there was some benefit to that, even though we didn't get the phase twos. Where we have a NASA phase one, we had a NIST phase one, and now a NIST phase two. So there's been there's significant amount of improvement, but it did take quite a while before it started snowballing and coming in.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit what it was like working with us?
Well, you guys have been very workable. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking to you. But it's obviously there's the startup cost of working with you. So if I'm gonna say if somebody's gonna have to and you've been upfront with it that there's been no hidden fees or anything, or no hidden ideas, but but there's a business decision to be made whether you can start using those startup costs to start working with you, and how much effort I think we're willing to put in the effort at the beginning, so you understand our technology. Then you started running with it. You found there's no way I would have done this many proposals and follow through. I wouldn't have had the bandwidth. So finding the proposals, the biggest thing is that back office type of invisible part that I know is there that I'm not having to participate in terms of getting all the paperwork in, not only just finding the proposals, but making sure they're all the paperwork is in there, because there's multitudes of forms that I get thrown. So you need to sign this thing, you need to do this form, I would not have been following through on that as diligently. And and if I had to have that all on my plate, there's no way I would be putting in this much effort into those grants.
What are things that you think companies should know about the process?
I think that they, I think that they should understand that there's still effort on the company's part, that they have to be willing to put in the effort. Look through the proposals, make sure that they are what the technology is. So in turn, the company itself is an expert of their own technology. They understand it better than anybody else and what they want to try to show for it. But how to relay that in a grant and how to pursue that is really your expertise. And so I'm just going to say that the upfront work is really what you don't shy away from the upfront work, because it gets easier over time.
Yeah. Amazing. I think I don't have any other questions. What else would you like to say? Millions of people are going to be listening to this afterwards. Who are people that you might want to work with, talk to, get connected with? What are companies you'd like to work with or get in touch with afterwards?
I got to say, in terms of sort of for our own commercialization and marketing, I'd really like to talk. I'd like to have the companies that are looking at this in terms of the technology of additive manufacturing of circuitry and electronics to please get in touch with us, especially the designers. The first tier companies and the primes that have areas within aerospace, within other area markets that feel that this might be an overlap. Please get in touch with us. I think we could probably help you.
Awesome. So to the people, first, thanks a lot, Dan. I really appreciate it. It's always great seeing you. For the people in the audience and the people listening to this afterwards, highly recommend speaking with Dan from ChemCubed. Every time we talk, it's always an interesting and fun conversation, at least interesting. I don't know if I'm fun every time I'm on the phone, but it's been great working with you. Thank you for being a part of kind of the Eagle Point journey, and appreciate your time, and think that's it. I think it's a wrap.
Thank you.